Most of us were raised with a very specific, almost lonely view of the Creator. We imagine God sitting in total isolation, micromanaging every atom of the universe through sheer willpower. But if you look at the ancient Hebrew text, the curtain is pulled back to reveal something far more complex and far more crowded. This is the world of the divine council, a celestial administration that most modern readers have completely overlooked. In 1 Kings 22:19, the prophet Micaiah is granted a vision that should change the way we read the entire Bible. He says, "I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing beside him, on his right hand and on his left." Now look closely at what happens next. These aren't just silent statues or decorative angels. They are a functional, deliberative body. In verse 20, God doesn't just issue a command. He asks for a suggestion. And the Lord said, "Who will entice Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth-Gilead?" And one said one thing, and another said another. Think about the implications of that scene. The Creator of all things is holding a staff meeting. He isn't asking because he's confused or needs information. He's asking because he has chosen to govern through a celestial boardroom. He has granted his spiritual creatures real agency and real participation in the governance of the cosmos. This is what the Bible calls the Council of the Holy Ones in Psalm 89:7, where it says, "A God greatly to be feared in the council of the holy ones, and awesome above all who are around him." This council is the invisible government of the universe, and as we are about to see, their decisions and their rebellions have shaped human history for thousands of years. Now, this immediately brings up a question that shocks many. If God has a council of gods, does that mean the Bible is polytheistic? To answer that, we have to dive into the ancient Hebrew language, which is far more precise than our modern English translations. To the biblical writers, the word Elohim was what scholars call a place of residence term. To be an Elohim simply meant you were a resident of the spiritual realm, just as being human means you are a resident of the physical realm. The Bible refers to many Elohim, including angels, demons, and even the departed spirit of Samuel. But it is crystal clear that only one is the Creator. Yahweh is an Elohim, but no other Elohim is Yahweh. He is the species of one. He is the uncreated Elohim who brought all other spiritual beings into existence. This is why Nehemiah 9:6 is so incredibly specific. It says, "You are the Lord, you alone. You have made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their host." Yahweh doesn't have a council because he needs help. He has a council because he is a king who delights in sharing his authority with his created family. He is the God of gods, as stated in Psalm 136:2, the supreme executive over an administration that he personally designed. To truly understand the Bible, you have to realize that God isn't a lonely monarch. He is the head of a royal family. The sheer scale of this divine administration is revealed in one of the most famous verses in the Bible. But we often miss the plural context because of our modern traditions. In Genesis 1:26, when God says, "Let us make man in our image," he isn't just talking to himself or using a royal we. He is addressing his council. He is announcing his decision to create a physical version of his spiritual family, humanity. We see the weight of this hierarchy in Psalm 82:1, which contains a sentence that should stop every reader in their tracks. It says, "God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment." In the original Hebrew, the word for God, singular, and gods, plural, is the exact same word. Elohim. This is a scene of Yahweh standing up in his own celestial courtroom to judge the lesser Elohim who have failed in their duties. It reveals a tiered system where spiritual beings have real power, real territorial jurisdiction, and the real ability to fail. These are not robots. They are sons of God with high-level responsibilities. This hierarchy explains why the Bible uses different terms like seraphim, cherubim, thrones, and dominions. Each has a rank, and each has a role. But as we see in the ancient texts, some of these high-ranking officials decided they wanted more than just a seat at the table. They wanted the throne itself. This isn't just theology. It's the historical account of a celestial civil war that spilled over into our world. The first great crack in the divine administration didn't happen in a vacuum. Long before the nations were divided, a group of these council members staged the ultimate cosmic incursion. This is the Genesis 6 event that the ancient world was absolutely terrified of, and it forms the foundation for almost all ancient mythology. The text describes the Bene Ha-Elohim, the sons of God, crossing the forbidden boundary between the spiritual and physical realms. This wasn't just bad behavior. It was a biological and spiritual coup. By intermingling with humanity, these rebel watchers produced the Nephilim, a hybrid race of giants that threatened to corrupt the entire human lineage and block the path to the promised Messiah. This is why the New Testament writers, like Peter and Jude, point back to this specific moment as a primary reason for the flood. 2 Peter 2:4 tells us, "For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell, and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness." This rebellion was an attempt to overwrite God's image on earth with a dark, spiritual counterfeit. These watchers didn't just bring sin, they brought forbidden knowledge, teaching humanity the arts of war, sorcery, and seduction. In the biblical worldview, the legends of the Titans or the demigods of Greece aren't just myths. They are distorted memories of a terrifying period of human history where rebel members of the divine council attempted to seize control of the earth. The second great strike against the divine administration occurred at the Tower of Babel. Most of us think this story is just about confused languages, but the Hebrew text reveals it was actually a judicial divorce between God and humanity. In Deuteronomy 32:8, we find the blueprint of the modern world. It says, "When the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God." Notice that it doesn't say, "according to the sons of Israel." At Babel, God essentially told the nations, "If you don't want me as your king, you can have the council." He assigned the 70 nations of the ancient world to 70 lesser divine beings. Israel was God's personal portion, but the rest of the world was handed over to these administrators. However, those administrators became corrupt. They didn't just govern the nations, they demanded worship for themselves. They became the princes and gods of Egypt, Babylon, and Canaan. This is why the Old Testament is a constant record of a war between the Most High and the rebel gods of the nations. In Psalm 82:6, God issues his final blistering judgment on these corrupt council members. "I said, 'You are gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men you shall die, and fall like any prince.'" This is the secret history of the Bible. It isn't just tribes fighting tribes. It is Yahweh reclaiming the world from the rebel princes who stole the hearts of the nations. This reality created what scholars call cosmic geography. In the ancient mind, when you walked out of the borders of Israel, you were literally entering enemy territory, land governed by a rebel member of the divine council. This explains why David, in 1 Samuel 26:19, says that being driven out of Israel is the same as being told to go serve other gods. He wasn't changing his faith. He was crossing a spiritual border into the jurisdiction of a different Elohim. This even explains the strange story of Naaman the Syrian in 2 Kings 5. After he is healed by God, he asks for 2 mule loads of dirt from Israel to take back home. Why? Because he believed he could only truly worship the God of Israel on holy ground. To him, that dirt was a literal piece of the only territory on earth that wasn't under the thumb of the rebel council. But this is where the story of the Bible concludes its great reclamation. When Jesus stands on the mountain in the Great Commission in Matthew 28:18, he makes a military declaration that echoes through the unseen realm. He says, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." This was the announcement that the lease of the rebel gods had been terminated. By his death and resurrection, he disarmed the principalities and powers, shaming them publicly. He was taking the nations back, one soul and one territory at a time. The unseen realm isn't just a spooky background. It's the legal and spiritual framework of the entire Bible. Once you see the divine council, the watchers, and the war for the nations, the Bible finally begins to make sense. And once you see it, you can never unsee it.